Dr. Hala Enara, our political analyst for every Saturday. A very good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
And we are going to start as usual from Al-Ahram, where we read: emergency in the different political parties and movements. The last-minute coalition settled the struggle on the parliament seats. The parties announced a state of emergency and enter the marathon of the parliamentary elections. Al-Wafd coalition says, we are organizing with all parties to complete the nominations. The coming headlines is from Al-Masri Al-Yawm, and it's also tackling the same issue, the upcoming parliamentary elections due to take place in a few months from now, or a few weeks to be accurate. Mahlab says, we shall not interfere in the upcoming parliamentary elections, and our role is only providing help. Ma'am, about the parliamentary elections, about this upcoming phase, which is going to witness the last step in our roadmap, and as we said before, maybe it's going to be the most important and powerful parliament in Egyptian modern history. How do you see those, as described by Al-Ahram, last-minute coalitions? Do you think that they are going to find success, or they are going to prove themselves on the ground with the people?
In fact, it depends on individuals, not on the parties. The person who has relations with his district, who has been providing help, who was doing anything, will be elected. But parties in Egypt are not popular.
We
know until now, we know that. But we know that there are certain persons known for all people. They have been providing help for a long time. They have been helping all people in their districts. And these people will be successful.
They
guarantee their success, yes.
A previous background or knowledge.
Yes, and experience with the people.
Yeah. Ma'am, but according to the press briefing which took place 2 days ago from the HEC, or the High Electoral Commission, there is a gap, 1 month between the first stage, which is going to include 14 of Egyptian governorates, and the second phase, which is going to take or to cover 13 governorates.
Yes.
Do you think that this month is going to give more power or more time for certain coalitions or parties in those 13 governorates? I mean, this month is going to make the process not that fair.
That's why some elements are complaining. The people who are going in the second round of elections have a better chance. But I think the chance has been very long for all people. They don't need, and it's not a month. It's the end of March and the beginning of April. It's not a month, but it depends on circumstances and the judiciary, how many judges are available for the elections, and the constitution and security, of course, and the constitution stipulates the judges must supervise elections. We don't have all this number, and you cannot have elections on one round, and you cannot finish the first round, and then the second day you tell them to go to the second round.
It's not practical by any means.
It's not practical, yes. And there's no reason for complaining. But anyway, you will find someone complaining. They will never be happy. For a long time, some elements were complaining, why don't they announce the sort of elections? And then when the committee announced it, they said, it's perplexing. What they announced is perplexing. Why did they announce now? There is not enough time.
As you said, you cannot satisfy all parties, all sides ever. We are going to move to a major issue, a hot headline from on all newspapers, whether the local or the international news agencies. It's what's going on in France and the terrorist attacks which took place starting Wednesday, and it's continuing, unfortunately. From Al-Ahram front page, we read the death of 2 assailants who carried out the attack on the French paper Charlie Hebdo, freeing the hostages, and 2 European summits to combat terrorism. France's Prime Minister acknowledges failings in intelligence that led to a 3-day spree of horror and at least 20 people dead. Criticism mounts that the attacks might have been avoided if officials had been more alert to the deadly peril posed by suspects already on their radar. Ma'am, how do you see what's going on in France regarding the timing of the attacks and regarding the way, I mean, using the hostages as, I would say, human shields, explosives, killing people, even in the middle of the day, I mean, in front of the security personnel. How is it? How do you see the whole scene?
As usual, terrorism is coward, and they never pay attention to the precious human lives. They can sacrifice anything for their goals. And they are not working for Islam or working for Arab world. Because if they want to fight for the Arab world, they can go to Palestine.
Yep.
They don't need to fight in France or in Europe. But Egypt have been warning for a long time. You cannot provide safe haven for terrorists and keep pressing Egypt. Release terrorists, release terrorists. This is democracy, this is human rights. And then you complain that terrorists are waging war against you. Because if you create a monster, you cannot deal with him.
Yeah.
And they created this monster. And they have to deal with it now. They are paying the price for giving safe haven for terrorists. This one who attacked Charlie Hebdo has been arrested before because of recruiting people for Al-Qaeda. And they released him.
There were some
What
news
did
that
they
he
think?
he had meetings with Al-Qaeda leaders or cadres in Yemen.
Yes, and he has been recruiting for them. And then he was released. What did they expect
But ma'am,
him to
since
do?
you've mentioned the human rights issues and the NGOs who are going to defend all the time the rights even of those criminals, not the rights of the victims. Those who were arrested and those who were killed, of course, I do agree that they are coming from Algerian or Arab origin, but they are nationalized with the French nationality. They do have the French nationality. So why we didn't hear those human rights people saying that you were killing French people, people who are carrying the French nationality?
Because this is French interest. This is Western
National
interests.
security of France.
And the French interests. They are talking about human rights as long as it doesn't affect them. But when it affects them, their interior minister and the prime minister and even the president say that there must be harsher measures for tackling such problems.
Let's continue with the same issue, but this time from Al-Masri Al-Yawm, where we continue to read. The nightmare of France enters its third day, holding hostages in 2 attacks, and Hollande living a real ordeal. The United States warns Americans to beware of terrorist actions and violence all over the world following the attacks on the Charlie Hebdo magazine and an Israeli supermarket in Paris. Still, we are with the same issue, but it's going to be from El Yom El Saba this time, where we continue to read with the statements of the French President François Hollande. Hollande requests a mandate from the French people to combat terrorism. The French President calls for massive rallies tomorrow and extraordinary measures to face extremists, and Paris witnesses chases between the police and those accused of attacking the Charlie Hebdo newspaper and the death of 2 in the hostage-taking incident. Ma'am, here I'd like to tackle the reaction of the regime, of the government. And something which was eye-catching, if you permit me to say so, is the meeting between François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy, the former French president, when they united together and they forgot all about being rivals, and they said that we should unite and we should, in the moment, just think about France as a first priority, as our best interest, and to have an international conference to combat terrorism, and that's it. Now they forgot all about being rivals, forgot all about competition, forgot all about the lust or greed for power and ruling. How do you see this?
In fact, this is normal in democracies, but there is another reason that Sarkozy was interior minister who took harsh measures against foreigners in
Yeah.
France, against people coming, descending from foreign origins, who are not true French, who are not French by, they are French by birth, but they are not true French, because they are descending from
Originally
Algerian
coming from,
origins,
other
Moroccan
origins.
origins.
They're
They are
coming
from
other
Muslim
origins.
and African origins,
Mhm.
and he has been taking harsh measures against this community.
Mhm.
Maybe this is why he is providing help now.
Mhm.
They need his help, and it's not only Sarkozy. They asked Egypt for help.
Mhm.
They have been criticizing, the West have been criticizing Egypt for its measures against terrorism. Now France is asking for the help of Egypt, and they are asking for activating a deal, an agreement that was concluded between the two countries but not activated. They are now asking for activating it, and asking for the help of security people in Egypt, police in
was
Egypt,
it in September?
and
When was
intelligence.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in the 49th round of the UN security of the UN?
It was about
What
2
was
months ago,
2
I
months?
think.
Yeah.
This agreement was about 2 months
No,
ago.
no. I mean, in the UN. I mean, in the speech of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in front of the UN General Assembly, he said it, and he said it that clear. Terrorism has no origin, and it's not directed to one region or to one place or to one nation. It's a global threat.
Yes.
And this is exactly what's happening.
Yes.
But we are we're witnessing some opinions who are saying that if the intelligence or the officers or those who were in charge of the security of France were on high alert or took into consideration the threats, something like that would never happen.
In fact, securing a society is not against human rights. If you find the killer who is ready to kill people, you must take measures against him. It's not human at all to leave him until he kills people, and then you
to react.
then you regret, and then start to react.
Yeah.
And maybe this is an alarm for all Western countries who are providing havens, safe havens for terrorists who are condemned and have been judged in their countries for death, for killing people, for practicing terrorism, and the West is giving them a haven. Now they are suffering, and
Yeah.
it's not only France. It has been in Australia, and just yesterday the Australian Prime Minister said that we will not be afraid and we will take measures, and it will spread
with
everywhere
the
in the West.
IRA. I mean, it's in Ireland,
Yes.
it's in Sydney in Australia, and if you remember what ETA
Yes,
did in
yes,
Spain, we can name a lot of
In fact,
terrorist
all
groups.